Alright, so I just boiled some water now, and I just put some rice noodles in to heat it up. You only want to heat it for maybe about 2 minutes. It's not that long. So once you've tasted that it's done, you take the rice noodles that are cooked out of the water, and drain it, split it into, well, I'm splitting it into 2 places. So now that we've split it up into these 2 places, now we just rinse it with cold water to keep the rice noodles from sticking to each other. So after those noodles have been rinsed with cold water, now it's time to cut them because they're going to be too long for the Sayur Campur. So just take a knife, put it back in the pan that it was cooked in, and just cut it up just put a knife through it and it'll cut it, because these things are very fragile. Alright, so those rice noodles are actually part of a bigger meal, which has to do something with all these ingredients on these tables right now. It's called Sayur Campur, which translates to mixed vegetables. So you see we have beans right here, carrots, meat, we have shallots, and then we have garlic, and in here we have scallions. We are going to mix it with also chicken broth to add some flavor, adding on to with the chicken that we have right here. And we're all going to mix it up and make a mixed vegetable with all the rice noodles that we had over there. So before you start cooking, you should put the salt on the spices first. You need to put enough on, and then later on, once you're done, or you think you're done cooking, taste it for salt and add more salt then, because the noodles are not spiced. So I put both garlic and shallots in. And then we make sure that this time we cook it until right before it starts turning brown. So if you see a little bit turning brown, that means it's time for the next ingredient to put in. So once you see that it's starting to turn brown, you put the chicken in, which is the next ingredient. And you make sure the chicken gets cooked. So once the chicken is in, put some pepper on it. For some flavoring. And mix it up. So once the chicken starts smelling good and it looks like it's almost done, you put in the veggies. And usually put them in together, so carrots and beans. And then you just keep mixing them. So after you put the veggies in and you stir fry it for a couple of minutes, maybe even more, you get the chicken broth and then you pour it in. And then you just let the chicken broth boil out. Once you put the broth in, you let it boil down. And then once you let it boil down until it gets to about right there. And then, but you leave that much in so that it'll soak up into the noodles. Right? So now it's time to put the noodles in. So once all the noodles are in, you mix it up. This is going to be hard because of the amount of noodles that are in it. Now all that's left to do is to add scallions. So I just added salt to this because it needed more salt. So that's just to say that keep checking so you know how much salt is needed. And then now it's time to put this in. Right, so once you add the scallions, mix it up. And then pretty much it's done from here. And then you can just serve it. Alright, here are the ingredients for the sambal goreng. You have tomato. There's about 3 tomatoes in this bowl, all minced up. Jalapeno, about 4 of them. Shallots, about 4 of them. Scallion, about 4 of them. They're all minced. And then you have salt and oil. So first you add the oil to the pan. And you need quite a lot to cover the bottom, because this is a hot, oily sauce that you add with the rice. Then you heat it up. Put a little bit of shallots in just to see how warm the oil is. Alright, so once it starts bubbling, that means the oil is warm, so we add the shallots. And the scallions. And you mix that up until most of it is brown, because when it's brown it has a certain type, it's a different flavor when you leave it before it turns brown. Alright, so the salt is different though. You don't add it when it's cooking, you add it while before the jalapeno goes in. You add quite a lot of it. So once you see some browning, put the jalapenos in. And you mix it up. This is actually fairly hard to do because it's really easy for it to burn. Alright, so once that cooks a little bit, you put in the tomatoes. And you let that cook. You don't want it to burn though. You just want it brown. So when you add the tomato into the mixture, it actually adds a lot of water into the mixture, so it's going to be pretty calm, not going to spatter around a lot. But when it gets dry and you actually want it to cook more, sometimes it gets too dry, and you should add water to it to make sure that it still keeps cooking. Alright, so once it's fairly dry and cooked, you pretty much take it out of the pan. And know that this can be reheated.